everybody. Welcome back to the show, Science Dispatch Podcast. So glad to have you with us. My name is Cameron English, your host as always, joined by Dr. Chuck Dinnerstein, Director of Medicine at the American Council on Science and Health. Chuck, great to see you again. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am terrific. I'm just loving life right now. The sun is shining. I can't complain.
I don't hear the baby, so the baby must be sleeping.
You know, we have secured some care during the day for the child,
Nice.
Which is it's pleasant. The house is eerily quiet because I'm so used to watching dancing vegetables on the TV and hearing cooing and crying and so I'm having to adjust.
I like the fact that you have the dancing vegetables because it could have been a dancing lamb chop. So already you're moving towards a plant-based diet for the child.
That's exactly that's what I was getting at, right? We want to get them on the veggies early because that is the key to a healthy life. Lots of soy. Just kidding. Okay, everyone. We got a difficult story, I'll say, Chuck. There's just so many troubling edges to this one. So this is by our colleague, Dr. Josh Bloom. It's called Supreme Court THC Case Highlights Our Flawed Drug Laws. This is Josh's bread and butter, complaining about federal drug regulation. And I think he's got an interesting point here. So let me read this introduction that he put at the top of the story, and then Dr. Dinnerstein, give us your insight. So Josh writes, a case involving a trucker who, despite scrupulously avoiding drugs for his entire career, tried CBD oil for severe pain following an accident. The product was advertised as 0% THC, which could not cause a positive test for the drug. But it wasn't, and he failed a random drug test and was fired. This case is now being heard by the Supreme Court. Bad science lurks behind the entire incident. Okay, Chuck, what's going on here?
Well, there's so many places that we have bad science, so I'm not quite sure where to begin. Clearly, there's a lot of legal confusion about how we're dealing with the THC and CBD oil and hemp, all of those products. The DEA is in the middle of reclassifying cannabis from being a Schedule I drug, which requires it to be highly addictive without any medically accepted use and without any safety profile at all, like heroin, to a Schedule III drug. And that there's been a lot of ballyhoo in the marijuana growing markets that this will make a difference, because primarily it will make a difference not to the user, because that's going to be regulated by state law, but it will make a difference to the growers and the companies, because then they'll be able to start using the banking system, and it will not always be cash. There'll be credit cards filed and loans and all sorts of funny banking things that corporations like, because you have to understand at this point that growing marijuana is a large corporate business. My favorite story is where I live on Long Island is a agricultural area where we grow cauliflower and flowers and all sorts of things. And the local flower nursery, which has 27 greenhouses and a truck facility, recently sold themselves to a marijuana company from Canada for $48 million. So these are not mom and pop operations anymore. So the change in the banking laws was important for them. But Josh's first point about bad science is the fact that, number one, this product that was sold that was said to have no THC in it did have THC in it. And part of the reason for that is it's not a regulated area and there's no quality control, as you would expect to find with any of these supplements. But beyond that, his other concern is the fact that there's really no good way to test to determine that THC is causing an impairment, especially in this respect with driving. And the reason for that has to do with the pharmacokinetics of the drug. It's rapidly absorbed into the bloodstream through inhalation, or you can swallow it, either way you want to go. But then it hangs around for a long time because it's fat soluble. And as a result, it doesn't have the time profile that alcohol has. And so it's very difficult to adopt any kind of testing to determine how long the drug has been in your system. More importantly, there is no standard scale by which you can say this amount of THC is causing an impairment. So a lot of the legal framework is just based on if it's there, then it's a problem. And unfortunately, this gentleman has gotten caught up in that. And he's not, interestingly enough, he's not the only one that would have that, because there are there are truck drivers that, for instance, live in New York where marijuana is legal. But they cannot use marijuana because as truckers involved in interstate commerce, they're the people that are going to be randomly tested by the federal government, and marijuana remains illegal nationwide. So that's a problem. Other examples would be a police officer. Again, a New York City cop is surrounded by legal marijuana. It is legal in the state of New York, but you know that the NYPD does not want people using marijuana and being on the force, let alone on duty. So I think these are the issues that Josh is trying to get at with the article, kind of teeing off on this unfortunate trucker that's been caught up in bad science and bad law.
So I don't know for sure, because I don't follow Department of Transportation regulations, surprisingly.
That is a surprise.
What I'm wondering is, and I don't know if you know the answer, I'm just thinking out loud here, is this just a case of a bureaucracy running because it has to run? Because it seems at any point in this situation, in this case, whoever's involved could look at this and go, okay, he has zero history of drug use. He's never failed a drug test. He was buying CBD, which he tried to ensure was THC free because he was in pain from an injury related to the job. Surely we can look at this and go, okay, this is not someone who's trying to skirt federal drug regulation. But that seems like too much common sense for federal law. So I don't know if you have any insight.
The law is not fuzzy. The law deals in black and white. And in this case, if he has a level of THC in his bloodstream, that's illegal. I mean, now, again, I guess we're going to be hearing a lot more about regulatory overreach in the next few years. And so this one, and maybe this is regulatory overreach that was paved with good intentions. Truckers are required, many truckers are working on a basis of which when they get to the site where they're loading or unloading, they are not paid. They are paid for the time that they spend in the cab driving. And so their days can be far longer because they can be waiting at a loading site for 3 or 4 hours before they drive. And so there's been a lot of concern about truckers, especially long-distance haul truckers, being impaired while they drive just from sleepiness. And, if they're sleepy, the first line of defense is caffeine. Then there's second line of defense is amphetamines, cocaine, and a wide variety of other drugs. So the feds put in regulations about how many hours they can be behind the wheel and driving. And because we're a technological society, they can build this kind of stuff now into the cab so they know the time. So a lot of the federal regulations over trucking has to do with keeping the road safe for everybody else by keeping impaired truckers off the road. And so good intentions, bad implementation perhaps of that. So I think that that's part and parcel of that. And, you would think that somewhere along the way, somebody with common sense would say, okay, this is what it's about. But probably there is a regulation saying that it has to be reported. And once it's reported, it takes on its own life. And that's a problem with any bureaucracy, because the difficulty there for equity, you must treat everybody the same. So that's the double-edged sword sometimes of equity. Common sense and equity don't always go together.
Ain't that the truth? Well, I'm sympathetic to the perspective that you need to keep the road safe, especially now with two young kids. All things being equal, I would like the person in the car next to me not to be high.
Right.
I think,
and you know that you're more likely to have an impaired passenger car driver than a trucker. But we'll leave that to the side.
Right. That's a very, very good point. If anyone would understand, and they point this out in the article, right? This is why the guy, not only was it marketed as THC free, but he called them or contacted them and said,
yes.
Are you double plus sure? And they said, yes, sir. So I guess maybe we can turn to that now and talk about the Supreme Court. I mean, neither of us are lawyers, but what are the possible range of outcomes here from this case? Because he's asking for a bunch of money, so that's obviously one thing. I'm just wondering downstream, how is this going to impact the legal landscape or the regulatory landscape?
Well, I don't have a good sense of at all. Again, this is a supplement that's being sold. They are not regulated anywhere near the level that we have for drugs, and there's any number of reasons for that, including the fact that it costs money to inspect these things and to test these things, and the budget doesn't cover this for supplements. I mean, when you look at some of the problems that we're having with contamination, a lot of it is in supplements rather than in pharmaceuticals, because pharmaceuticals have to be tested before they're released. And they come with batch numbers and quality control numbers and any number of other outside testing that's done so that they can protect their brand, if for no other reason. And with supplement companies, that is not the case. And certainly it was not the case in this instance. And I would think that he has a reasonable argument to be made to get damages from the supplement company. I don't think that he's going to have a good shot at getting back his driver's license for a while, or at least his commercial trucker's license, because I don't think the system is set up to deal with those kind of problems.
Crazy story. I guess the moral is, if you rely on driving for your income, don't just avoid any kind of THC or CBD product. Stay away from any shop that smells like patchouli or incense and sells healing crystals. Just don't even go near it, because that's the best way to preserve your livelihood.
It may be. It may be. Very well may be.
Yeah. I don't know. I really messy question.
It's interesting because this whole question of drug testing raises a lot of questions. Should we, again, you could take a state like New York, where smoking, a joint is legal. What do we drug test doctors? There's certainly been discussion about drug testing doctors before, and I would say that there doesn't seem to be any pressing need for that, but other people may feel differently about it. And certainly, if you look across the broad spectrum of medical specialties, there's a problem with anesthesiologists. But they have access. They have access, and that's why it's problematic. Everybody else, usually it's under lock and key, but we give the lock and the key to the anesthesiologist, and that's why there seems to be a little higher rate of difficulty in that group. So maybe we should be testing them, or maybe not. It's unclear what to do.
That is remarkable. I that hadn't occurred to me, but it's one of those stereotypes that you look at and you go, makes perfect sense. Of course it happens, right?
Of course.
Stressful day, long hours, very difficult work. A little huff of the gas might help you get through it.
Well, huff of the gas, fine. That can come and go. But we had there was a nurse that got their license pulled because they were taking a little taste out of everybody's pain meds.
So she was just emulating the IRS, I think is what you're saying. That's okay, right? That can't be that bad.
Yeah. She was like checking for poison. She was testing to make sure it was what it was supposed to be.
It's like my kid on Halloween, right? He goes and collects all the peanut butter cups, and I eat as many as I want, and he doesn't get a say in it.
That's very mean.
Look, I got to look out for his welfare and make sure there's no harm.
And you use him as a shill for peanut butter cups? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, at least I know what to get you for the holidays.
There you go, Chuck. There you go. Big peanut butter cup. It's just my little bit of rebellion against the Maha movement, right? They're telling me seed oils are bad, so here's me standing athwart history. Whatever. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us as always. I'm not even going to pretend to come up with a possible solution that someone smarter will solve, because I don't know if there is one. So just to show you the scale and scope of the problem, I hope we could help you there. And interestingly, Josh doesn't even dare to attempt a solution except to say that the law is broken, which, doesn't require a JD. So there you go. The law is bad. Everyone have a lovely week. Thank you for joining us. We are on social media. It's at ACSH.org on Twitter. I'm at CamJEnglish. If you want to get the stories we talk about, go to our website, acsh.org. Click the subscribe tab. Put in your email address. We'll send you the stories. And the ones that you read are the ones we talk about. So you'll show up a little bit more informed. And with that, have a lovely week, everyone. We'll see you next time.